Would you like to reach our film and TV review podcast audience? Do you have a product or service of interest to film and TV home consumers or followers of the entertainment industry? Have a film or show production to publicize? For affordable price plans for all budgets, get in touch and find out about our introductory advertising options. Reach our audience of film and TV viewers and visit our site contact page at filmandtvreview.com, or you can email us at business@filmandtvreview.com. Reach out today. Welcome to filmandtvreview.com. Catch the latest film, TV and streamed show reviews every week. The views and opinions expressed by the authors and those providing comments are theirs alone. They do not reflect the views, opinions or position of filmandtvreview.com or their respective parent companies or affiliates. Filmandtvreview.com makes no representations as to accuracy, completeness, correctness, suitability, or validity of any information in this program and is for entertainment purposes only. Episodes may contain adult humor and language. For full terms and conditions, see filmandtvreview.com.
So hello and welcome to the filmandtvreview.com podcast. I'm James and I'll be hosting today. We have a Zoom room full of people, film fans and TV fans wanted to talk about what they've watched in the last month on the big screen and on streaming, and maybe even on live TV if anyone remembers what that is. So Robert, what have you been watching this month?
Oh, well, I've been digging back into some old crime drama. French crime drama, and it's a series that was around, I'd say, about 5, 6, maybe 7 years ago, and it's a series called In Spiral, and it's got a great cast. It's a little bit like the French Wire, so yeah, a bit like the Wire. It's like a lot of there's corrupt police officers, or one main corrupt police officer, and basically a struggling police force trying to do justice. And it's kind of like a character. You get to get a good character analysis of each person, and you also, there's some nice juicy criminals in it as well. And it's interesting because it's one of these ones where all these stories are intertwined and you dip in and out of each person's story. There's also a barrister involved, so you see the barrister's story as well, and all these, like, and so you kind of like, you follow a crime that's going on and how they're solving it, and also how the criminal might be relating to the barrister in order to try and get themselves a decent deal or whatever to get off a crime case. So yeah, that's what I've been watching, and I've been finding a lot of fun. It's quite fast paced, and if you're not into subtitles, I don't recommend it. But if you don't mind subtitles, it's very, very good and very intellectually stimulating. Yeah, so that's what I've been into, the main one. But I've also been watching the Black Mirror. I haven't watched all the episodes either. And
what was your favourite Black Mirror episode of the new run? Have you got a favourite one?
Yes, there's a grisly episode. I won't say anything about it in case it's a spoiler, but there's a bit of a grisly episode based in Scotland where yes, and it kind of reminds me of something I may have seen in the early 90s. It's kind of got a gritty, kind of like, a gritty feel, and a bit kind of like something you might read in a paper, like thing.
Yeah.
Very, very, and just great acting on all parts.
It is. It's got because it's called Lock Henry, and it's got. Is it John Hannah? Is that the actor? And when he turns up, I kind of thought like he would have a bigger part than he does, but I feel like that's kind of deliberate, like them trying to throw you off the scent of what the plot is. Because as soon as he turns up, I'm thinking, oh, right now it's going to be all about him, and it doesn't become all about him. But yeah, there's a scene in it as well that which involves someone watching something on a videotape is all I'm going to say, but sort of set to some music. And I genuinely didn't know how to react, if it was meant to be the most horrifying thing I'd ever seen, or that sort of like the really dark and funny. But I think Charlie Brooker really likes to play around with that to sort of make it. It's a bit like Reservoir Dogs years ago, where you've got the music in the torture scene, and the music's very upbeat, but what you're seeing is horrible, and it is very much like that. But I've enjoyed all of the episodes I've watched so far. Even Maisie Day, which a lot of people, I'd heard some people dissing that episode, and it's sort of set in the 2000s because someone's got an iPod shuffle, and you suddenly realise, oh, it must be set back then. And it's a very short episode as well. It's like barely 40 minutes, I think. But I quite liked it. I thought it was quite good. I'm saving the final episode, which is branded as Red Mirror. And apparently it's like the first full-on horror episode that they've done, although they've obviously done a lot of horror over the years. But I'm kind of thinking I might try and leave that for Halloween week. I like to have like a good bunch of stuff to watch over Halloween week. So I'd see if I can do it. But I might get to the point where I just want to watch that final episode, but we'll see how I hold out on it. Have you got any other ones you want to share at the moment, Robert? Or
no, that's
come back in later?
The last thing I watched, it was similar to Black Mirror, but I just couldn't stomach it at the time. I watched several of the episodes. I loved them, but I didn't watch the whole entire thing because I got to a point where I just didn't really, it wasn't connecting with me at that time because it's a little bit too grisly. And that was was it Guillermo del Toro or something?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, bro. Yeah, and his series of horror stories. It was I quite enjoyed them, and I enjoyed particularly there's one about a Nazi kind of people that summon evil kind of spirits or things, and that one I found really good. And there's a couple of little interesting episodes, but then I just got to a point where it's like, oh, I'm not enjoying this anymore. It's becoming a bit sickening.
Very dark. Cabinet of Curiosities, I think, is the show, isn't it? And it's on Netflix. Yeah, that is on my watch list. It would be. So is it sort of episodic like Black Mirror, that they're all standalone stories but in a certain style? Yeah, that might be what I need to go into next. But thank you for the warning that it's a little bit heavy.
Well, so that's it mainly. I mean, that's what I've been getting into.
Well, we'll get around the room, and then we can always sort of revisit and come back on things. Jane, hi, welcome to the group. I've not seen you before. You may have been here, and I haven't been here. So
no, it's
you've
first
met all
time.
these people for first time.
First time, yeah.
Well, welcome. What have you been watching this month?
I'm terrible because if it's on at Cineworld, I've seen it, but then I forget about what I've seen, so I'm useless. That's why I was looking up the list, trying to remember. I did see Oppenheimer. I saw that in 2 shifts. I don't like 3-hour films; they're a bit long. And Barbie. I'm not going to do any spoilers. When you mentioned about John Hannah, it reminded me. I love Wes Anderson, so Asteroid City was very, very good. And I went to a little talk about Wes Anderson the other day, and that because I don't really know that much about filmmaking, but it's just really interesting, just saying about his style and everything. So I've been going back watching. I think it was The French Dispatch. I'd not seen before, so I watched that on Prime. But she said how in like Grand Budapest Hotel, it starts with a big thing about Bill Murray. He's getting ready. He's trying to catch a train. He runs along, but he doesn't catch it. And it's not even about him. It's about the actor with him that actually does jump on the train. Which is like you said with John Hannah. Is he going to be a main thing? And he isn't. So it was like I thought it's quite similar with that. I just big fan of Wes Anderson at the moment.
He's always got these sort of big ensemble casts, isn't he? Where it's sort of like, although I think in Asteroid City, arguably the sort of lead character. I've forgotten the name of the actor, but he's sort of paired with Scarlett Johansson for a lot of the time. I found that kind of storyline the most compelling. I really like Grand Budapest Hotel. I need to fill in. I've got a lot of blanks to fill in on Wes Anderson, actually, and I think a lot of his films are on Disney Plus at the moment. I was going to say, when I watched The French Dispatch, I wasn't like a massive. I kind of like, sort of admired it, but it just didn't. I wanted to like it more than I did. But Asteroid City, I really kind of liked. I was baffled for a lot of the runtime, but it really made me kind of think back. Well, this must be about something. And I think sometimes maybe a criticism of Wes Anderson that his films are a bit more style over substance. And here that the substance is maybe in a way sort of minimal, or there's a dismissive element. I don't want to sort of explain what I think the film's about, but I think it is about something, and I thought it was quite effective. I quite enjoyed it. I thought it was quite fun.
It's actually interesting you saying that. Sorry, because I didn't actually enjoy The French Dispatch as much, but I watched it at home, and I thought, is that because I love being in the cinema, and I enjoy films so much more in the cinema than at home. So I just wondered if it might be that. And
I agree with that. Yeah.
One of the things that this the person talking about was saying, if you want to, you can look up his Amex advert on YouTube, and that actually shows him just doing this one shot that he does, and just how amazing he is, and makes it look really easy. Everything going on in the background.
Yeah, I think through COVID, I really tried to convince myself that it didn't matter watching films at home, but there is something about seeing something on the big screen and not being able to be distracted, and it's completely engaging. I certainly felt that on Oppenheimer. I think maybe at home I would have got sort of distracted or not paid attention. I'm not sure, but and I think with Oppenheimer, I mean, other people probably talk about it. It looks great. There's great performances and everything, but I thought the sound was really good in a non-obvious way. There's times when they use sound in like a really weird way, and I thought this just wouldn't sound right at home. Like the points where the sound like literally rocks the cinema, and then times when it's eerily silent as well, that would not happen at home because you'd hear someone like, you know, a dog barking outside or something like that. But yeah, we shall move on around the room. Andrew, hello.
Seems like more recently I've seen better quality stuff, both at the cinema and also in terms of streaming, sort of. I mean that in general, not necessarily specific ones that maybe people talk about, but and then it's not like the best of the whole franchise, but I watched the first season of Dead City just ended. I guess they want to do like all these spin-offs of the Walking Dead franchise. And it's not like the big franchise it was a decade ago, but they're doing all these spin-offs because the parent show ended. And Dead City, I thought was all right. They're supposed to do a second season at some point. I don't know. Everything being very wonky right now, who knows what's going to happen? But there is supposed to be, ideally, a second season. And the program is about these characters that we were introduced to on The Walking Dead, Negan and Maggie, and they're going to New York City during a zombie apocalypse to try and rescue the son of Maggie, of that character, and how dealing with that, and how it's kind of like an adaptation expansion because these things are based on graphic novels, Walking Dead, and they're now trying to expand to other parts of outside what we see just in the comics of the graphic novels. Dead City, you're seeing New York City. A couple of weeks, or maybe like a month, you're going to see the Daryl Dixon program, where he's going to be in France, and it was actually filmed in France. So you're seeing other parts of the world, not just other parts of the U.S., but other parts of the world. So it kind of opens things up. What happened to the rest of the world? It's not just Atlanta or these parts of the U.S. So it's very much like what else is going on in this apocalyptic world. And another thing I watched And this was something that just came up in like a streaming feed. It's a program that was on, I think, a decade ago called The Secret of Prickly Hall. And it's kind of a gothic-ish horror ghost thriller. It stars I can't remember the leads, all of them, but I know like Maisie Williams was on it. This is when she just started with Game of Thrones. Olivia Cook, David Warner, some other name actors. I can't remember all, but it basically flashes back and forth in time between a family in the then present, 10 years ago, who go to a house in the country, and it flashes back to events that happened during World War II, I guess in the home front, with children being evacuated to the countryside from like London, big cities. So I think the threat, it says it's a ghost story, and there's that aspect, but it seemed like the threat is a lot of ways more, humans who are living and not just the supernatural. So there are some scares, but yeah, I mean, I thought it was all right. I did feel that the third episode, it's a 3-episode, I guess, miniseries. The third episode gets a little bit more formulaic, like a lot of tropes like race against the clock, that type of thing. But I thought it was all right. And I would have probably not thought of watching it not for it just popping up in my feed. And I was like, oh, this looks interesting. I'm gonna give it a go. And yeah. And so that's what I've seen. And then I've seen some of the other stuff in streaming, like Strange New World, which I've been thinking is pretty good. It's sort of a mix, like episodes often being serious and not so serious. So, like if you're into Star Trek, or even just, watching some of these actors, like there's a crossover with the animated program Lower Decks, where those characters appear in live action. It's pretty funny. So you see like Jack Quaid and Tawny Newsome, like those characters are voice actors on the animated, but you see them in live action. So yeah, that was a pretty good episode. So other than that, I've actually I haven't seen because I haven't aired yet, but looking forward to some of the stuff coming out in the next couple of months. There's the Daryl Dix one I mentioned, but also just Gen V, which is a spinoff of The Boys. They've already filmed season 4 of The Boys, in case anyone's wondering, because I know things are kind of wonky right now. Season 4 has already been filmed of The Boys. I guess it's maybe going to be in post-production, and then they'll air it sometime next year after they've aired Gen V. I did watch the Adam Eve special spinoff of Invincible, so it was good. Gives you a little taste while you're waiting for season 2 of Invincible. But I felt Adam Eve really fleshed out that character. No pun intended. It just was like, yeah, you think about the title character Invincible and his family, but Adam Eve is like, yeah, she's got her own thing going on.
Cool, thank you, Andrew. And what was the name of the spin-off, the Invincible spin-off? Is that on Prime as well there?
Should be, yeah.
Well, Mark may be able to fill us in. Hello, Mark. You've usually
Hello,
got
James.
some.
Hello, Ron.
You've usually got some great streaming choices that you delve into to find. What have you been watching this month?
Yeah, well, funnily enough, I haven't seen Adam Eve yet, so that's one that I know of it. So yeah, that'll probably be one I'll probably check out. Thanks, Andrew, for recommending that. Yeah, what have I seen? I've seen all sorts of things. I mean, I've seen Secret Invasion MCU wise. Springs to mind. Did a little review for Jason for that. Yeah, not bad. I mean, it's I think it was. I think it started well. I think it had some interesting ideas. I think it took some ideas that exist in the comics and kind of tried to go with those, but it kind of felt a bit like it didn't really amount to that much, or it kind of didn't really overall. It didn't really. Had these grandiose ideas of being a spy thriller or doing that kind of thing at the Winter Soldier. had done, but the Winter Soldier did a better job of it in a film than this did in a 6-part series. So it was kind of a bit disappointing. It was not bad. I mean, it was like passable, really. Okay.
Do you think
like,
it would have worked better as a film, Mark? Because I was surprised when this was announced as a series. I thought this would be the sort of film with Sam Jackson at the front that they'd want to maybe make like a big centerpiece film.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, I think so, James. You know, it's funny, isn't it? Yeah. Normally we talk about when you see films that are kind of maybe MCU included, but films that might work better as series where they can draw the story out. This is the opposite. Yeah, this probably is the opposite, where it's a series that probably would have worked better as a film. I mean, so much of it seemed kind of unnecessarily drawn out, or drawn out for the sake of it being a series. Like, for example, why didn't Nick Fury just give this? Oh, spoilers, sorry, I should say spoilers before I say any further. In case anyone's not watched it, I'm just going to say something quickly spoilerish. You know, why didn't Nick Fury just give Gravik the harvest sort of early on, and Emilia Clarke's character to play him in disguise earlier on? That would have sort of wrapped things up a bit nicer. I think that was quite a nice touch to see the Super Skrulls with all the Avengers powers. I mean, in the comics, there's sort of a mix of, say, X-Men, Avengers, Fantastic Four, in terms of their power sets. So it's good to see. It was quite interesting to see them as Guardians of the Galaxy and sort of Avengers having those kind of power sets. But I like that in particular. But it kind of felt a bit like it almost. I mean, what they weren't making up as they went along, but it almost felt like they were making up parts of the story as they went along. Like they didn't. It felt, I guess, a bit rushed or a bit kind of thrown together, but it was all right. It was decent. So that's one thing I watched MCU wise. Watched an interesting South Korean film about about football, as in not soccer, should we say, but football, with the Women's World Cup going on at the minute. This was it's called Dream. It's on Netflix. It's essentially about a group of homeless guys disgraced soccer star or football star is given the chance of redemption by coaching a team of homeless football players for a homeless World Cup. Now, I didn't know there is in real life a homeless World Cup that takes place, and all the players of all the different teams are homeless people who are who play, and this is based on that. That's the true part of the story. This is a fictional part based on that. So South Korea take part with their team of players, and it's kind of rags to riches type story, in that the disgraced football player kind of finds purpose for himself coaching these players, and they find purpose within themselves, kind of with a bit of national pride. It's sort of light-hearted. It's not bad. It's sort of entertaining. So that's on Netflix, called Dreams. An animated one I saw that was quite good, actually, with Riz Ahmed, Nimona, which is in essence what it is. It's set in a fictitious world, sort of along the lines of like Pixar kind of animations, things like that, but it's actually much better than those kind of animations. So it's set in a kind of fictional world, a fictional future world, but like, say, Knights of the Round Table world, should we say, existed in modern times. So there's like horse and carriage carts that kind of don't have horses, that kind of engines that drive around and that kind of thing. And people live in castles as apartments and things like that. And so it's kind of a medieval style world, but modernized. And the story is Riz Ahmed's character is a knight who's going to be kind of knighted. An accident occurs. He has to go on the run, and Nimona's a character, like a shape-shifting sort of not demon, but kind of creature who he sort of teams up with, and it's really good. Yeah, really, really, really entertaining, really fun. So watch that. Just been watching. Haven't finished it yet, but I'm watching one on Netflix called Paradise, which is a German film. So a bit similar to the film In Time with Justin Timberlake, where the premise of that, in essence, is people can give years of their life in sort of so in essence, people can give years of their life to the government, and as a trade-off they'll receive financial gain to do so. So the government, you never see it in the film, but the government have found a way to extract years from people's bodies, and they can, they'll get financial incentive to do so. The main character is kind of an agent who goes around recruiting people. So things like, let's say, gain entrance, into society. If their, say, youngest son gives up his years, and obviously the most rich and powerful people take those years and kind of spend money to extend their lives. And what's interesting in the film is, without kind of going into too much more detail, he finds that that situation affects him personally. That's probably the best way, or his family personally. That's probably the best way to say it. But yeah, it's quite interesting. It didn't get the best reviews, but I'm quite enjoying it. So it's called Paradise. I think it's better than the reviews are giving it credit for. And then I guess finally, the only other thing I can think of is there's one I want to watch that looks very good on Amazon Prime called Project Wolf Hunting, which is a South Korean sort of sci-fi horror, I guess, but more horror. It's essentially about a group of really dangerous criminals who are being transported by prison ships, so by police officers, like kind of SWAT police officers. So in essence, they're going to transport some prisoners. A terrorist attack happens, or there's an attempt to get some of these prisoners out in that terrorist attack. So they decide the best way to transport them is by a boat. And as that's happening, werewolves attack the boat. So it's kind of a dangerous criminals and SWAT police officers versus werewolves. And it looks like a really good, and it's South Korean, looks like a really good kind of very, very particularly violent, particularly gory, but it looks quite good. So Operation Wolf Hunting is on my list to watch. But that's my list, James. Yeah.
Thanks, Mark. That was a good list. That last one, Operation Wolf Hunt, that's on Prime, did you say?
On Prime, yeah.
Prime.
Yeah.
That does sound interesting. Sounds an interesting watch.
Mm.
I will just go to Alfonso and Amy first and see if they are there, if they have anything they'd like to talk about they've seen this month.
Yeah.
What have you seen this month, Alfonso?
Well, pretty much what everybody has seen, at least in the cinema. I saw Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, which was, well, good enough. I mean, when you have low expectations, I guess it always, with the fourth installment, you kind of lower your expectations. And I also saw the Barbenheimer, the Barbie and Oppenheimer, which is like something that is really working because it's a little bit different. Although, of course, everybody knows Barbie, but it's Barbie with Mattel letting filmmakers have an original approach, let's say, kind of original, kind of like walking the tightrope of like being not too out there, but a little out there, so it feels original and it's paying off big time for them at the box office. And also Oppenheimer, it has been, I think, benefited by this, both by its own intelligent marketing campaign of IMAX and talking about the technological side of the film, because the film is quite talky and not action-y at all, I would say. But they emphasize the IMAX. You gotta see it in IMAX, and it's they made a big explosion for the film, like a real thing, and Nolan and everything, the Nolan lore of films and his special practical special effects, and also the marketing with the whole Barbenheimer thing has benefited, I think, mostly, well, both, but mostly Oppenheimer, which has done like half of what Barbie has done so far. I'm also watching Silo on Apple TV, which is the Rebecca Ferguson-led series, sci-fi. I don't know if anyone else is watching it. I am in the middle of the first season, and it seems like it has a lot of budget, and it's very, very much only sci-fi. It's pure sci-fi. It's just like people who live in a place. I don't know if it's a little bit under the surface of the earth, because the earth is not you cannot live on the earth. It's kind of a Wall-E situation on the earth, something like that. And there are like rebels inside of Silo that want to seek answers for, because it has a lot of time has passed since the last people who knew something about the outside, and there's a lot of secrecy. They have been living there for generations, and also some crimes start happening, and yeah, so it's a lot of mystery, a little bit lusty, but not so much. So yeah, I am watching that, and yeah, that's kind of like what I've been watching.
I think with Oppenheimer as well, like the best hour I think is the last hour, and I suddenly started to think there's a lot of films now where the last third of the film I feel is the weakest, and it didn't used to be like that. But maybe this taps into this thing of ground sort of effects aren't really groundbreaking anymore. I can't think of the last time I saw something where I was like, wow, I've not seen that before on film. You know, back in the day, Jurassic Park or something, you were looking for that the end when you get a really good look at the monsters and things, or the dinosaurs as they are.
It changes,
but,
the movie changes genre, I would say. Even in the last hour, it's a courtroom drama with more twists than before. It's strange also why he decided to make it black and white, that era. Yeah.
Yes, I thought that, because in Memento it does make sense. It does make sense why it's black and white, because that's sort of the start of the story, and then they join up in the middle. But it's sort of a stylistic choice. It wouldn't matter if those scenes were in color. You would still understand that they were flash forwards from the main timeline. But he's decided that he's going to do some of it in black and white. The stuff in 1959, I think it is in black and white, whereas the stuff in 1954 is in color. Although it is a lot of talking, I think there were two sequences that are very well done in terms of just the shots they put together and the sound and things. I don't want to sort of ruin them, but I think they're the things that happen about 2 hours in, and it is good up until then. But there's a sequence 2 hours in that I think is fantastic, and then there's one shortly after where he's giving a speech. That's all I'll say, and I think that is the best scene in the film. I think for me, it's really well done. That
I went to the bathroom then, I think.
Well, I went to the bathroom.
I saw that I had the bomb thing had passed, and I thought like I was like, I looked at my watch and said like, okay, yeah, I know this is 3 hours. Let's see how it is from to the end.
That's a shame that you went during what I think is the best bit. Whereas Mission Impossible, so my experience of it was I quite liked it. It's probably a bit long, and I think there's two exceptional action sequences in it. But there is a lot of other people said, oh, there's a big exposition dump. There's a big bit where they just explain the plot, and that scene kills all the tension. That is the scene that I went to the loo in the middle of. So I missed that sequence that everybody else hates, because I'd just seen a really good action sequence. I was like, this is a long film, I'm going to go now so I don't miss the next action sequence. So by doing that, I made it into a better film.
Are they in Venice or?
There is a car chase in the middle. I can't remember where it is. I think it might be Venice or Florence. Is it? I can't remember. But that sequence is exceptional, I think, and the end sequence with a train is very, very well done. And
it was like the car chase in Rome and then the train. Yeah.
But I meant the exposition. Which one was it? Because there were like 3 or 4.
Oh, it's immediately after the car chase scene where they're sort of in a black warehouse, like the lights are down and it's dark, and all talking about, because the plot is basically we need to get this key. That is the plot, but it's all there to just hang the action sequences off. And I do notice in Fast 10, I'm kind of watching the action sequences, just going, that's an action sequence, whereas in Mission Impossible, I'm not even that invested in Ethan Hunt or Tom Cruise's characters, but I feel like the action is like really dangerous, like someone's going to get hurt. Like I'm really kind of, and I think it's just the way it's storyboarded out and the way it's shot, and the fact it doesn't look as CG as Fast 10 probably as well.
Also because Hallie Atwell really makes you feel like she can kill Tom at any point.
Yes, yes, there is that as well. Julian, hi. What have you seen this month that you would like to talk us through, to recommend or to tell us to stay clear of? Should we go to Don? We go to Don for a second. Let Julian sort out his audio, and we'll come back to you in a minute. Hi, Don. How you doing?
Hi. You know, I passed my 40s. I just want to say I don't watch movies as frequent as before. Do you feel the same?
I'm past my 40s. I don't think I've ever said that on the call before. I know everybody's shocked. Everybody can't believe it, but I'm past my 40s, and I probably watch more films now than I've ever done in my life. But I probably should do some exercise and stuff at some point. But,
you're still watching movies?
I'm still watching movies. I'm trying to be a little bit selective in what I watch. I think I did get to a point where I was like, I'm coming to see stuff that I think is going to be bad, and then it was turning out to be bad. So I'm trying to be a little bit more selective.
No, because I've been thinking when I was almost 40, I've watched so many movies, so many stories. Why should I put so much time to watch so many stories? And then most of the stories is actually fake. It is. The last movie I watched was actually the last Transformers, because I'm a Transformers fan since child. I like to play with the toys and so on. But then I have not been watching as much movies as before.
And what did you think of the new Transformers film? I've forgotten the subtitle of it now.
It was like some beast, Rise of the Beast or
Rise
something.
of the Beast, yeah.
No, well, it wasn't that as great as the second one and the third one.
Okay.
It was a low-budget Transformers movie.
Did you think there was sort of like more emphasis on the human characters in it? But I suppose maybe would you say that's not what you go to watch a Transformers film for?
I think it was almost the same. This one and then compared to the first one. Transformers the movie.
And which is your favorite Transformers film out of the many? And you're allowed to include the animated film from the 80s.
I would say it's Transformers 3, the dark of the moon, or something like this.
That is that one.
Yeah, the third one that actually was the end of the trilogy. It was, but at that time I was in my 30 plus. It was different, you know.
So which films did you see in your 30s that you think, wow, they don't make them like that anymore?
Ooh, then it's a lot of movies. Lord of the Rings, for example. Maybe also Titanic. And then which film? Lord of the Rings. The blockbuster productions. I mean, they don't. It's like a lot of technology involved. Yeah, I mean, blockbuster cannot fail.
Well, you say that. There's been a few high-profile sort of failures this year, although a lot of them seem to be with sort of these massive budgets that they have, where it's very difficult for them to recoup the money. My theory on this is that a lot of these things were greenlit after Avengers Endgame, which was pre-COVID and pre-Disney Plus. So I believe that the budget of Indiana Jones 5, The Dial of Destiny, the budget is something like 350 million, which is insane. And they probably thought it would make $1 billion, and that's why they went with it. But I think it's just cleared 350 million, so it's sort of broken even.
But was it a good movie, Indiana Jones 5?
My feeling with it on it, and I'm not massively invested in the Indiana Jones films. I sort of like them, and they're always on TV on bank holidays in the UK. I thought all the character stuff was interesting in it. He's an older guy now and things, but I'm not sure if that's what people are going to see an Indiana Jones film really want. But I thought it worked a lot. It was much better than it could have been. I thought him and I've literally forgotten Phoebe Waller-Bridge. I think playing his niece. I think that works really well. The rapport they've got, and there's some good action sequences. I find the digital de-aging, which is at the start of the film, odd because it's sort of impressive, but also looks rubbish. Like it, whenever they digitally de-age someone, you can see they've digitally de-aged them, and it kind of throws me out of the film anyway. I can't believe that's a real person. I'm not invested in them. I'm just looking at how they've done that. But it's fine. A lot of people have said it's better than Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, although I've also heard people saying they've reappraised that film. I haven't gone back to it. I can't really remember anything about it. It was 15 years ago. But yeah, I'd say it's worth a watch, Dial of Destiny.
All right. It was one. Okay. Because Indiana Jones 4 was actually not a very good script.
That seems to be the consensus. I think that is still the sort of least popular of all 5 films, I would say.
Yeah.
So fair enough.
Yeah.
Just quickly check, Amy, are you listening in today, or did you want to share anything that you've watched in the last month or so?
I mean, I haven't really got too much to contribute because, like you, I kind of, slow down during the summer months. But I have just started going through the list of recommendations of classic films that you guys kind of gave me, and I started with Roman Holiday, which I really liked. So, Andrew, I think it was. Thank you for that recommendation. Yeah, it was a good film, and it actually kept my attention more than a lot of modern films. So I guess they did something right back then.
Is that
what is next on your list of classics, Amy?
I think I'm quite intrigued by perhaps Camelot. I think it was another Andrew recommendation there. But yeah, I mean, I've written them down and I'm going to hopefully go through all of them. I've seen a couple that got recommended, like The Wizard of Oz and Gone with the Wind and things like that, like prior to being recommended them.
Yeah, we were talking in one of the groups about sort of classic films. I think Empire magazine, which is like a big film magazine in the UK for people overseas, and they did like a list of 100 films. I think they'd asked their readers for. I think Lord of the Rings was the top one for the noughties. Shawshank Redemption often comes up for the 90s. Godfather for the 70s, and 2001 The Space Odyssey for the 60s. So they're the sort of big ones. I don't think there was anything earlier than that. Or maybe 12 Angry Men, I think, comes up for the 50s as well. Which I have not watched yet, and I actually got it on my birthday on a Blu-ray, and it's on my list to watch, so I will get around to watching that soon because it's meant to be a bit of a classic. And Casablanca would have been the top pick for the 40s as well, so that's always a good one to check out.
Oh yeah, I've checked out that one too as well. Yeah.
Right, could I ask, is Roman Holiday the one with Audrey Hepburn where she puts her hand in a statue thing in a wall?
Yeah, that's the one.
Oh,
I
brilliant!
think she won the Oscar for that film.
Right, yeah, I remember that film. That's a very good film.
And it was also her debut film. I mean, like the one that made her famous, if I'm not mistaken.
I went back. Mark mentioned Riz Ahmed. I watched Four Lions which is currently on Netflix in the UK. It's sort of a satirical film from 2010. It's Riz Ahmed. It sounds like the least likely subject matter for a comedy, but it is very funny. And it's Riz Ahmed's character leading a team of wannabe suicide bombers who are just rubbish. And it's got a lot of daft humor in it, a lot of slapstick, but it's also got a lot of sort of satirical edge to it, and I think it's got like real like humanity in the characters and the sort of sad choices that they're making, and there's quite a lot of sort of pathos at the end of the film, I think, as well. But I sort of forgot how much I enjoyed that film. I've watched it quite a few times, and that certainly delivers. I will say, actually, I've seen two previews that sometimes at cinema that I go to, they do like an advanced screening, and I got to see JoyRide, which is a a sort of comedy that's coming out shortly. That was very, very funny. About four female friends on a sort of road trip. It really played well. So nobody knew what the film was going to be in advance. And it was a group of all ages, and it really landed. The jokes really landed on it. It was very funny. I did also see the Jennifer Lawrence comedy No Hard Feelings, which there seems to be a lot of people taking against that, and I sort of get it, because the subject matter sounds like it's maybe not the sort of right thing for a comedy to be addressing. But so it's basically a rich couple have a 19-year-old son, and they feel that he's not come out of his shell, so they put out an advert to hire an older woman to kind of basically date their son, date in inverted commas, and bring him out of himself. As the film it's definitely got a lot of laughs in it, and it played again really well with the audience, and it's really been great to be in cinemas again, hearing people laugh, because there's not been many comedies since COVID really that have come out. It's very funny, but I think sort of the point of the film is that the guy this young 19-year-old doesn't really need the supposed help that his parents are pushing onto him, and Jennifer Lawrence's character is maybe the one who has bigger problems in her life, and I think that's where it's much more of a character piece than it is like a shock comedy. There are moments of sort of shocking comedy, but there's a lot of different types of humor. There's slapstick in there, there's wordplay, there's just silliness. There's a musical part of the film as well, which I won't go into what it is, but it kind of stops you, and you see in Jennifer Lawrence's reaction in that sequence, I think, what a good actress she is. And I think it's got a lot more heart than people are giving it credit for. I think people have just seen the synopsis and gone, I'm not watching that because I disagree with that. But I think it's a far more thoughtful movie than people are giving it credit for, and it's funny. And the other preview that I got to see this week, although it's out now, is a horror film called Talk to Me. This is an A24 film. It might even be out in the States already, Andrew. I don't know. And it's definitely a film like actually JoyRide and No Hard Feelings, where I don't feel the trailer does it justice. Although maybe it's good they kept some of the stuff back. But basically, these kids, sort of, teen kids, find a mummified hand. I can't even remember where they found it, but if you hold it and say "talk to me," you kind of get stage 1 possessed, as it were, and then you say "let me in," and you get fully possessed. So what these kids are doing is they're strapping to prevent minimal harm to other people and themselves. They strap themselves to the chair. They're sort of strapped in and belted in. But then they're all filming it and putting it on TikTok, and that's what the trailer makes it out to just be. And you think, oh, that's the initial premise, and it certainly is. And then it goes on a little bit further, and I think it's really effective. It's very lean. It's like 90 minutes, and it's got a strong ending as well. Sometimes you have with horrors they might peter out or they don't, but it's got a really good kind of thing where you just get it come. And when I started watching it, I was like, I'm not sure if I think this is going to be middle of the road. I'm not sure if I'm going to be feeling this. And by the time it finished, I was like, that was not bad actually. It wasn't. Not saying it's going to be in my top 10 films of the year, but it was pretty good, pretty decent. So that's called Talk to Me. A24, who we're big fans of here, most of us. So they always do some interesting stuff. So I would recommend that if anyone's likes their horror.
Right.
I'm just going to agree with you on that one. That's I saw both those films. No Hard Feelings, like you say, the musical bit was lovely. And I don't normally like horrors, but I'm getting into. Because I run out of things to watch. I saw it yesterday, and I didn't know anything about it. I really enjoyed it. I think I liked the fact it's Australian as well.
Yes,
because so many are American, aren't they? It's like to see something a little bit different. Yeah, that was quite good. The premise, I think they got it because someone else had been through it and they passed it on.
Yeah, and it's sort of like the best horrors. It's sort of maybe an allegory for other things, trauma and things like that. And the characters as you go on, it's quite interesting. I completely forgot it was Australian because there's been a couple of horror films over the years. There was one called Better Watch Out, and it's a really good movie. It's a Christmas themed movie. it's Australian, but everyone does American accents in it. It's because they were trying to make out it was in America, which makes sense for trying to sell the movie abroad. But yeah, I really like that. What did you think of No Hard Feelings, Jane? And you don't have to like it just because I said I liked it.
No, I really enjoyed it. And when I read the premise, I thought this sounds terrible. As you say, it doesn't really go. It doesn't go like that, does it? No. Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, I can see why. It's a bit like the Emma Thompson one when she was using an escort, and there was probably a similar thing. But
it's
not exactly
Leo
the same,
Grand. Yeah, Good Luck to You, Leo Grand. Which
that's
is on
it,
Amazon
Leo Grande,
Prime,
or whatever it was. Yeah, probably based on a play or something. It's not exactly the same, but it's better if you watch the film before you make your comments. If you see, I think.
I think that's almost what I don't know if that was designed into it, but it is a bit like that thing. And it's obviously, people will say, oh, that's a modern phenomenon now on social media. People read something very briefly and then comment on it. But it's always been the case that, like with newspapers, people would often comment on stuff because they read the headline rather than gone into the detail of it. So, I just thought it works really, pretty well. The characters are pretty funny in it, and I thought it was quite good.
Like you say, a lot of laughs in it, definitely. So
there is. I will just say before I forget, there is a documentary which I saw in cinemas last year. It's really good. Called Nothing Compares, which is about the singer-songwriter Sinead O'Connor, who sadly died this week. Even if you're not a fan of hers, I think everyone knows the song Nothing Compares to You, which was written by Prince. It was a massive song in the 90s. But there's a really interesting documentary on her that obviously came out before she died. And it's just sort of looking back at her life more than her career. And obviously she was someone who was very outspoken, and she sort of famously tore up a picture of the Pope on Saturday Night Live to sort of highlight child abuse that was being covered up by the Catholic Church at the time, and nobody believed that at the time, and she was pilloried for it. Obviously now we know that was the case, although I did see someone this week saying she never lost her faith in God. She was always a believer. That was very much targeted at the people who were covering that up. It was very much targeted at the failures of the institution. It wasn't about the church. But it's so weird in that documentary watching it, and everybody's reaction to hearing her say this is going on is, are you worried about your career? And it's kind of strange in hindsight to go, it's strange that everybody thinks that is the first thing to worry about rather than that. But it's sort of, with hindsight, it's quite interesting. She was quite definitely a sort of unique figure. So that's called Nothing Compares, and it's on Sky Arts in the UK tonight. So I would recommend that. I'm really looking on a completely different subject. I'm really looking forward to, on Monday, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Mutant Mayhem, which is getting really good reviews, and it looks like it's just going to be very funny. Definitely taken from the Spider-Verse school of animation, but the reviews, even people who I know have, like Peter Bradshaw from The Guardian, has given this 3 stars. That doesn't sound big, but someone like him going, I quite enjoyed that, is quite a thing. So I'm kind of looking forward to watching that this week. Has anyone got anything they're looking forward to seeing in the cinema or on streaming? Anything on your watch lists, Robert?
Thank you. Yeah, there's. I was intrigued. I saw a trailer the other day, and I heard I was actually not paying attention to the TV, and then I heard something familiar. It sounded like a split second of the Exorcist soundtrack. Then I looked up, and it was like, oh, hold on, was that the Exorcist? And then it did it again, and it's like, oh, that's got to be a sneaky kind of like, it's kind of like telling you it's going to be coming back sort of thing. And then I followed it through, and I realised, there's going to be a new Exorcist film, and so I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do to make it shocking and appealing to the new generation of watchers, and as well whilst also catering to the old generation. I know there's going to be one of the main actresses from the from the first one, so that's going to appear in it. So I'm just interested to see what they do with that, and the general feel of the movie.
Yeah, I've been waiting for this trailer for quite a while. So it's called The Exorcist Believer. It's going to be directed by David Gordon Green, who did the new Halloween trilogy for Blumhouse, which certainly the first one was really, really good. And I do think in its defense, the new trilogy, they're all quite different films. And I will say I didn't like Halloween Kills when I first watched it, rewatched it before I watched Halloween Ends, and sort of appreciated it more in a second watch, because I was like, it is deliberately trying to be different. That's the whole point. And I think it caught me off guard the first time. I don't think it's completely successful, but they're trying to do something different. The original Exorcist is 50 years old this year. It's still terrifying. It just is. I know maybe new generations would not say that. They just laugh, but I still find it terrifying. I think the third one was really good, from about 1990. There's like 2 cuts of it. I'm not sure from the trailer, but I'm 100% going to watch it. There's no way I'm not going to watch it. So, and I hope that they're holding some of the stuff back. And the kind of premise seems interesting. It's not just the same thing of, in the original, a child is being possessed at home. So starts and it seems to be 2 parents and their children are going missing for days at a time.
Yeah.
And that sort of seems like an interesting, maybe different way into it. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that it's gonna at least do something. And on that note, thank you for listening to the Film and TV Review.com podcast. Until next time, from all of us here, goodbye.
We hope you enjoyed this Film and TV Review.com episode. Catch the latest film and TV reviews, together with regular episode content from the world of film and TV every week. See you soon. Would you like to reach our Film and TV Review podcast audience? Do you have a product or service of interest to film and TV home consumers or followers of the entertainment industry? Have a film or show production to publicize? For affordable price plans for all budgets, get in touch and find out about our introductory advertising options. Reach our audience of film and TV viewers and visit our site contact page at filmandtvreview.com, or you can email us at business@filmandtvreview.com. Reach out today.